My guest today is a woman's health advocate and on a mission to help women heal after a hysterectomy. She is the founder of Hysterectomy Healing, and her coaching program puts women at the heart of their own healing journey. Welcome to the show, Laura Applewhite.
Oh, thank you so much for having me and for that wonderful introduction. Thank you.
You're very welcome. It's lovely to have you here. So I met Laura a while ago at a training seminar. We got talking about this topic, and I've never heard anybody talk about it before. So it was imperative that I spoke to you about coming on the show, because I think it's such an important topic that, like I said, it's not in my world, but I have never heard anybody talk about it before. And I've been to a lot of trainings and everything in the past. So if you'd like to tell the listeners, Laura, a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to start as well by saying, yes, you're right. It's not commonly spoken about, women and hysterectomies. In this country, however, approximately 55,000 women in the UK will have a hysterectomy each year. And in America, that figure is as high as 660, if I remember, 660,000, that is.
Wow.
So it isn't spoken about enough, in my opinion. And yes, so my name's Laura. I help women heal after a hysterectomy. And really my mission, really wider than that, is to help women heal so that they can help heal the world, because it is my belief that when women in the world are happy, then the world can be a happier place. And also, I just want to say, because I don't want to exclude men ever in this, but obviously that was very loaded towards women being happy in the world. But actually it doesn't exclude men, because good women need good men. So very much welcome in all of the good men like yourself in the world as well. So yeah. So really what brought me to this work was the fact that I had a hysterectomy approximately 3 years ago. And I found the experience very isolating, and I was terrified of the surgery and how I was going to be afterwards. Also, I was terrified that it was going to go wrong, because I had worked in clinical negligence before, and I had preconceived ideas which were incorrect, which I just want to state that they were not right. Okay. That everyone who had a hysterectomy, it was going to go wrong, and I was really concerned about that I was going to wake up with a colostomy bag or some kind of bladder issue. I was immediately going to be catapulted into old age, and I might as well just give up my youth and start sitting in the corner knitting with my knitting needles. Those were the main fears that I had going into the surgery and going through the process. And here I am now, like 3 years later. And I know that that's not true. And I really wanted to really help and support as many women as possible through this experience, because it became really important to me that no one went through the procedure in the same way that I did. When I say that I felt very isolated, alone, and afraid going into the procedure, really what that means is I was isolating myself, and I did not speak about it. So really going back to your first point, that no one talks about it, I was ashamed to talk about it, and I was ashamed that I was going through everything that I was going through. And before the hysterectomy, I was having periods that were horrendous, that were preventing me from going out, and I was ashamed of that as well. So yes, not many people talk about it, because maybe like me, they're ashamed, and maybe they worry about what that means about them as a woman. And this is one of the main things that I do when I'm coaching women, is to help them realize that there's nothing wrong with them, and they can still live a happy, wonderful, fulfilled life after this procedure.
Yeah, and for the people that are listening, obviously they can't see you, You're very young, aren't you, to have gone through this experience?
Well, I mean, I'm 40, I'm 45, so
Yeah.
I feel like I'm young. Yeah, really depends, doesn't it, on how old you are, whether you think that's young or not.
But I think to go through that type of experience, I would, one of my best friend, actually, his wife had hysterectomy when she was much young. I think she must have been in her early 30s when she had her hysterectomy. It's interesting. I was around there last night, and we had a little bit of a chat about it, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Coming on the show today. Yeah, I mean, I to me that's a very young to be going through such an operation. I mean, did that impact on you at all, the kind of the age thing? Because you said that you were ashamed maybe of what you were going through, not just having to have the hysterectomy, but the kind of precursors to needing to have it in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I don't know necessarily whether I thought that I was young going for the procedure. I think about it now, yes, maybe, but some of the things that came up for me when it was decided that this was the best next step for me, because like I said, I was having horrendous periods for a long time, and I was getting to the point where I was quite poorly. I had anemia, and even though I was still like working really, really hard, my energy levels were just sapped, and I was starting to really struggle. And well, going back to what we said before, I wasn't talking about that with my friends or my family really, and I wasn't communicating. Yes, my husband knew, because my husband is an amazing human being, and he was there and always supporting me, but I didn't talk about it with even my friends really. It was something that I just sort of hid and swept under the carpet and didn't want to admit. And when I talk about things again that I was ashamed of, like I had a prolapse, and that was revealed after I had an ablation. So I had an ablation before my hysterectomy, which was offered to try and prevent the heavy periods. When I had that, my surgeon said to me, Laura, you've got like a grade 4 prolapse here. Like, I'm surprised that you don't have any symptoms. And I lied and said, oh no, I don't really have any symptoms, because I was having symptoms. Like, I virtually stopped running because I didn't want to pee myself all the time. So again, it goes back to that I was ashamed thing, because like now I know, like, if you start peeing yourself when you're running, that's something that you go to the doctor and you get treatment for. But then back then I was like, oh, I'll just stop running then. So like,
that's the issue.
Exactly. So that can be like a big thing that stops people getting any kind of treatment, because they're ashamed to admit to themselves like what's going on. So sorry, I sort of went on a bit of a ramble then, but do you
understand that what you were actually going through then, that how you were feeling that made you want to keep this to yourself? How did you think you viewed having a hysterectomy or having problems? How did you think your perception of yourself and having those issues came about?
Yeah, well, I just wasn't very good at taking care of myself back then. And so when, for example, I had that, and this is why I talk about it now, and at the time I wouldn't have been admitting to anyone that I had a prolapse, because like I said, I was ashamed, and I thought that was embarrassing. And also I thought, oh, it's normal, like as women get older they just pee themselves, fine, like that's okay. But actually no, it's not okay. And it's not, I know it can be funny, like yes, we can all have a laugh about it, but not to the extent
not funny though, is it?
No, exactly. And not to the extent that you don't get the treatment that you need. Like there's a thing, isn't there? Like I am definitely, and I don't know whether it's just in the UK, like we can have self-deprecating humor, and that's good, and you can laugh about things, and that's good, but it gets to a point where like don't just laugh about it and not do anything about it. Like get yourself to the treatment, and educate yourself as to what's a problem, and what you can do to resolve these problems, because who knows, had I got treatment earlier, I may have been able to prevent my ultimate hysterectomy. I don't know. I still haven't got an answer to that question.
Okay. Is there a stigma, do you think? Is there, I mean, you know, it's a very important part of a woman's body. Do you think there is something around this, having this operation, or having to have this operation, or having even the idea that there could be a problem that could lead to having a hysterectomy? Do you think there is a resistance in people because of the significance of that part of the body to seek help?
Yeah, definitely. I think that is a really complicated and long answer as well, because I definitely felt that having the surgery might make me less of a woman, and I know now that that's not the case, but I did have that fear inside of me before the surgery, like, I'm not going to be a proper woman anymore. But also that's not true, not in the least bit true. But these feelings that come up, there's nothing wrong with that thought and that feeling. And it's something to be allowed, and something to not to block out, not to resist, and something to allow it to come up and work through. And I hate sometimes saying this, working through things, because it's, you know,
there's a process, isn't there, that you need to go through in order to be able to manage this for yourself.
Yeah, and it reminds me of a quote that I read yesterday, something like, what you can't feel, you can't heal. So like all of these past coping mechanisms that I had created about pushing my feelings down and pretending that they didn't exist, like, again, when it came to my hysterectomy, like everything from all of those times when I tried to push things down, it all just came up, and I had to face it. And as part of my hysterectomy healing, I had to really deeply heal inside of my heart. It was not just about the physical healing, and this is really one of the things, or one of the main things that I help and what I coach women through is, it's not just the physical healing that we're looking at here. It's often that you need to heal heart, body and soul, and the physical side of things actually can be often the easy part.
Yeah, and I guess that's, like you said, there's a huge significance in what you do as far as what your coaching and your support is for people out there, is that you do give them the tools, or you give them the space to be able to actually really work through what they are going through, and help them to come to terms with what is a very significant space and significant loss.
Yeah, definitely. And then, you know, going back to that, you know, not feeling like I would be a proper woman, moving on from that, I was 42 and I had my hysterectomy, and I wasn't planning on having any more children, but I had to grieve for the fact that I wasn't going to have any more children. So logically you go, well, this is what I went, like, well, you weren't going to have any children anyway, why are you sad about this? But I did grieve for that, and I needed to, because again, it's not something you can push down and put it in a box and forget about it.
There's one thing knowing that you're making a choice not to, but there's a second thing completely when you know you can't.
Yeah, definitely.
That choice is being removed from you.
Yeah, definitely.
And you work with women in your group, as you said, and we had a little conversation before, and it was interesting that you touched on the relationships that they have, and the importance, what they see as a significant factor within relationships for themselves nowadays. Would you like to, can you talk a little bit about that? And being this is the Relationship Guys show, it would be interesting to see if there's a difference between the significance of things that they place on having healthy, intimate relationships with people that may be different to what I've come across in the past. So could you share some of that with me?
Definitely. They have come up with, I just wanted to send out a little message of love to the women in my hysterectomy healing community. By the way, my hysterectomy healing community is such a loving space, and I love every single one of them inside of there. And if any of them are listening to this, I just want to say that to all of them. So I asked a little question this morning to them: what was the most important aspect in a loving relationship? And they have come up with quite a few of the things that I came up with as well. I'm just going to start, because I'm here, I'm going to start with some of mine first, and then I'll move on to some of theirs. But what I will say, just a little spoiler alert, is some of the things that they have come up with, well, most of the things they've come up with really are what I've come up with. So I don't think you're going to be shocked by any of these things here.
Right.
But one thing, when I was thinking about what we were going to talk about this morning, is when we're thinking about the importance of relationships, one of my biggest things for a happy and healthy relationship, and something that I just wanted to mention, was that it was some advice that my grandma gave to me before I got married. So before I got married, I said, because I was desperate to get it right this time, because I'd been married before and it was horrendous, mainly because I was 18 at the time. So, you know, 18-year-olds getting married.
Yeah, that's another show altogether.
Definitely. Anyway, so she said to me, pardon?
I'll have you back and we can talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can learn from all of my mistakes.
That's exactly what I do in my coaching.
Yeah,
I've made into one package. Great stuff.
Yeah, can we do one like that? That would be amazing. Yeah, she said to me, and I'm going to pass this on always from now on, well, from when she gave the advice to me, was most important thing in a happy and loving relationship is a sense of humour. And I really, really believe that is so true, because you can't take yourself too seriously in this life, and especially in your relationships. And for me and my husband, especially when the chips are down, we like to laugh at and with each other all of the time. So that has really, really, really helped us through some ups and downs. So, I mean, I've got a lot more as well, but a lot of the other things that I've written down here have come up in my hysterectomy healing community, like commitment. And I always want to say, to yourself first, and then to everyone around you. Non-judgment, again, of yourself, and then extending that to everyone around you. Humility. And when I say humility, I don't mean like how in the sense of, you know, having a low opinion of yourself. I feel like a lot of the time, like, humility can be misconceived, if that's the right word.
Definitely.
Or misunderstood.
Like so low self-worth and low self-esteem.
Yeah, no, I see humility as not being proud, and really being aware of yours, and then by extension after that, everyone else's humanness. And from the women in my community, they've come up with, again, loyalty, honesty, trust, friendship, and being able to take yourself and your partner on dates, open communication, and understanding each other's love language. And I mean, there's just so many things. Like,
there are so many things. It's interesting when you said about love languages, most people don't even know their own, let alone knowing what their partners are.
Exactly.
We have done a show, so if you want to listen back to one of the previous episodes of the Relationship Guide, we have talked about love languages if you are not aware of what they might be. So
for example, like, I really love words of affirmation. My husband, he doesn't really care so much about words of affirmation, and he is definitely, his love language is definitely service. So sometimes we can come at things from a completely different angle. And you know, just this week we went out for a lovely romantic little date and ended up having a disagreement because I asked him for some words of affirmation. Obviously I didn't say it in that way, because that's
please affirm.
I was just asking for a compliment, basically. And I forgot myself for a minute there, because when I do that, it makes him feel a bit under pressure, and he doesn't know, he feels a bit like I'm saying that he never says anything nice to me, but that's not true. And because I put him under pressure, then we ended up having a bit of a disagreement. So
I'm not going to say it just because you want me to.
Yeah, exactly. And
but actually, again, maybe you needed him to.
Well, yeah, but also, like, and I just want to also then mention again there that before I came on the, or not again, but before I came on the podcast with you here, I asked Paul, like, what would you like me to talk about on the podcast? Because I'm talking about relationships, and you know, he mentioned the thing about sense of humor, and I'm just going to quote him here because this is his sense of humor and mine as well. And he was like, I want this to be a bit light. I don't want you to be all serious and talking about commitment and trust and non-judgment and courage and vulnerability and that. What about remembering that not everyone is like the fucking Waltons? And I'm like, yes, exactly, because not everyone is like the Waltons.
No, I think that's the importance of the few things that you've intimated to already when you started to kind of talk about this, was the importance of having a really good relationship with yourself.
100%.
Because if you don't have that relationship with yourself that's healthy, then you are going to judge yourself. You're going to have maybe so low self-worth and self. So if someone is trying to have a joke with you, you're not going to be able to take it very well. If they don't give you the words of affirmation that you're looking for, conversations can escalate into arguments when they don't need to, because of the fact that you haven't dealt, again, go back to whatever, we haven't processed our own stuff. So it's really important that you do work on that relationship with yourself if you want to have a healthy relationship. And like you said, you know, be able to laugh at yourself when it's appropriate.
Exactly.
Something that's funny. Rather than get embarrassed, rather than feel shamed, rather than feel whatever it is that you might feel, is just to be able to go, you know, well, that's okay. That's quite amusing, really. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Like if I look back at this disagreement that we had the other night, like no, I wish that we hadn't had the disagreement, but looking back, it is quite funny, like how we were both coming at it from a different angle. And also, like, you can't have a healthy relationship if you think that you're never gonna fuck up. Like relationships are not perfect, and we're all perfect and imperfect both at the same time. So like if you think you're going to be in a relationship and everything has to be like the Waltons every day, you're setting yourself up for a fail because like relationships sometimes are not easy. And it's about that, you know, going back to what I said before, it's about that humility, about understanding sometimes you're going to get it wrong and sometimes your partner is going to get it wrong. And if you can always remember that you love each other and not forget that, then you're going to be, you know, you're going to be doing a little bit better, because you know, you can't go through life. Paul and I have been together 25 years now. You can't go through 25 and, you know, let's hope we're going to get to 50 one day, if, you know, God willing, I'm still here by then. Let's hope we're gonna carry on like loving each other and accepting when we get it wrong and just laughing at and with each other,
being with each other in that moment when it all goes wrong, you know, like you said, separating and falling out. It's actually just accepting that things will go wrong and how we're going to work through this together. And I guess coming back to what you went through with your hysterectomy, just quickly to touch on, relationship beliefs are one of the fundamentals, I believe, in having and creating a healthy, intimate relationship. If you don't understand what your relationship beliefs are, then you will be setting up yourself to fail, because if your beliefs are unattainable, then you are going to keep looking to find something within a relationship that really can't exist.
Exactly.
That importance of those relationships as well. So when you were going through, you said it was Paul that was the person that was your rock. He was there for you. He was the one you shared things with and helped you through. So the significance of relationships to you, especially when you were going through that time in your life, how would you say they helped you and got you through the difficult times that you went through?
Yeah, I mean, so if we just you know, talk about Paul being my rock, so you know, if we go back to the point where I said I wasn't great at looking after myself, so for example, I in the first few days after my hysterectomy, I was like, oh, this is easy, I'll be all right, I can just hop off the bed, I can just like do the Hoover, and I can just move this chair, I can lift this. And Paul was like, no, you are not moving. You are sitting in that chair or lying in that bed and you are not moving. And I was like sulking like a petulant child, because I was like wanting to like hop up and show myself and everyone how I'm invincible.
Yeah.
And I joke about this, that he virtually had to tie me to the sofa on the bed and whatever, and maybe not in the way that you'd like, but
Not in that way.
yeah, but he was like, no, you are gonna sit there and you are gonna lie there and you are gonna recover. And he would not let me leave the house like for 2 weeks. So I was desperate to go for a walk around the block again, because I wanted to show myself and everyone that I was invincible. But I needed that discipline, and I needed that, I needed that from Paul, that time and that space to rest and let my body heal, especially in the beginning, because left to my own devices, goodness knows what I would have tried to do.
Yeah, it's interesting because my stepmom, she had a hysterectomy as well, and I went round there not long after she came out of the hospital, and she was standing on the kitchen units dusting the top of the units.
Oh my god.
And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Get down. Oh, this has got to be done. I was like, no, get down. You can't be up there. Get down.
Oh my goodness.
Like rest for the next few weeks or so. At the time, this was many years ago. At the time, I kind of, being in the world of trying to understand why people are doing what they're doing, that makes sense, because that's the kind of person that she is. She likes to be seen, someone who can just crack on. I can understand now why she was doing what she was doing, and I'm sure she got straight back up there after I left, to be honest. But
you're not telling me what to do.
Yeah, I don't think she saw the importance of her own well-being.
Exactly. And I think that really that leads really nicely into one of the key things that I had to learn when I was recovering after my hysterectomy, was that over the years I had learned, and it had been helpful for me in some way and some ways, so I don't want to completely turn my back on it, but anyway, I'd learned that I could pull my socks up, I could push on through, like doesn't matter what I'm going through, like just keep going. And as I say, that was helpful for me at times, but in the healing and the recovery part after my hysterectomy, I had to learn to actually start listening to my body more. And actually there were a lot of cues that my body would give me, a lot of messages it would send me, that I would miss completely, because I was just so used to pushing. So I had to learn to almost like dial down the mental chatter, dial down my head a little bit, and start listening to my body and my heart, because it was trying to guide me in the right direction, but I was ignoring it a lot. That's
come up it comes up a lot in the coaching that I do, but even some of the interviews that we've had on the show, is that significance of recognizing what your body's telling you, because your mind has a different idea about what your body's capable of. And when it comes to all sorts of different things, where your body might be under stress, he's not coping very well, it will tell you, it will give you the signs. If you're living in your head all of the time, and you're not allowing yourself to make that connection to what your body's trying to tell you, you can completely screw yourself over.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's quite common, especially for women. That's my experience, that's my knowledge, and especially in the corporate world as well, like it's just it's almost celebrated, isn't it? Like push, sleep when you're dead, lunches for wimps, all that kind of stuff. And
expected to be at beck and call, answering your emails at midnight type thing.
The best employee in the office is the one that stays there the latest, that kind of thing.
And to the firm.
Definitely, 100%. And like I say, there's some parts of that are okay, and there's some parts of that are good, but you need to, I felt that I needed to, and I have needed to get that balance back right, and allow my body to have a bit of a say sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. You need to be in harmony, don't you, with all
100%.
different parts of yourself. Again, it's all that self-development, that self-learning, and really sort of spending some time looking at you and understanding you and figuring out really what's going on in your own life and going on in your own body. Kind of live the best version of you possible, I think.
Yes, definitely.
So thank you so much for sharing your story with with the audience today? If people would like to get in contact with you, because like as you said, this is not a widely talked about topic. People may not know where they can go, but it's amazing that you've got this Facebook group for people that you can support and help through, either before they have the hysterectomy or after. There's a very supportive and nurturing environment that you offer. How can people become part of that, and how can people get in touch with you in general?
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much. So my hysterectomy healing community can be found on Facebook. It's Hysterectomy Healing with Laura Applewhite. And I think you're going to put the link to that in.
Yes, indeed. We will put your group link in the show notes. So if anybody isn't able to jot this down, then do look in the show notes and you'll see a link to Laura's Facebook group there, and also connect with you on Instagram.
Yeah, and they can connect with me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Laura_Apples_, and that's just a little nod to my nickname, which is Apples. So anyone who calls me Apples, you're my pal. So that's that. And also, if anyone has any questions or if they want support, then they can DM me on Instagram, and if they find me on Facebook too, then they can DM me there as well, because I love to chat, as you can probably tell.
Yes, no, that's been an amazing conversation. Thank you very much. Like I said, if anybody's there that is in the same situation, either you think you've got a problem and you want to talk to someone about it, or you've already been through this experience and you want some support with it, please do get in contact with Laura and join what sounds like an amazing community to help you through any difficulties that you might have with these experiences. I'm going to call you Apples now.
Yes,
so we can be pals.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Laura, for being here, and I look forward to speaking to you again when maybe we'll come back to talking about your wedding when you were 18.
Yeah, please do. I mean, I've got a lot of material here for you. I'm ready, willing and able whenever you want.
Awesome. So thanks again, Apples. It's been great talking to you, and I'll look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Really good talking to you as well. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.